live streaming on a Monday, closing down the month of March. It's the 31st and final day of this month. So glad to be with you inside the vault for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. And yes, I am solo for one more day. Sarah and her family encountered a little bit of weather issues on their way back from Florida and their spring break. So I would say they're getting an extra day of vacation, but that's really not the case. I think they're just kind of working and maneuvering through the delays and cancellations, and there's some gnarly weather out there right now making its way around the East Coast. So with that, Sarah Ellison, my co-host and partner, will be back tomorrow. And in the meantime, we've got a lot to discuss. There's actually content to sink our teeth into, unlike last week. That's exactly what we're going to do here inside the show today. It's brought to you by my friends and our friends at Manta Sleep. More on them in just a bit, and happy opening day to those of you who celebrate here in Baltimore. The Orioles will square off with the Boston Red Sox coming up. It's a 2:35 first pitch, which was also moved up due to weather-related issues that the Baltimore area is set to face, or at least expected to face at some point later on this afternoon. I'm looking forward to running over to the ballpark with my college roommate. It's a tradition. It's a sacred day in Baltimore. So I hope you and yours enjoy it, whether you're going over with your son, your daughter, your wife, your dad, your mom, your brother, your sister, you name it. It's such a special time, and I really cherish opening day in Baltimore as a transplant, and obviously somebody who grew up in upstate New York. John Harbaugh, just a short while ago, met with reporters, as every AFC coach did today, from the annual NFL League meeting in Palm Beach, Florida. So we're going to have essentially an instant reaction. It's not exactly instant because the press conference itself was pre-8 a.m. So they got an early start, but I'm going to go through everything, including what he had to share about some internal discussions that are being had related to Lamar Jackson. Hint, hint, a potential contract extension that could be coming sooner or later. John himself was extended. He is now going to be in Baltimore through the 2028 season. We'll get to that in just a bit as well. He also gave a quick little update on the potential extension that exists for Derrick Henry. Now, both he and Lamar are under contract for the 2025 seasons, but there obviously are a number of reasons as to why DaCosta would like to extend both players. Couple other things as well, like the return of Keaton Mitchell. Now, we saw him last year, but we saw a very small sample size of him, probably a lot due to Derrick Henry, of course, his presence, but also the ongoing recovery since that December 2023 ACL tear that Keaton's been going through. We'll have an update on him, what Trenton Simpson's role looks like in year 3 after being demoted and really benched last year for a couple of different rotational inside linebackers. There's a ton of different takeaways that we're going to have for you. So that's what I got coming up. Please like the video on your way in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I'm dropping our daily live content here inside the channel. And let's begin with this. The second longest tenured head coach, as the Ravens dropped late on Friday. A classic little news dump there. It's a 3-year deal for John Harbaugh. He's 62. He'll be 63 in October, if memory serves, when his birthday is. And now he is under contract through 2028 in Baltimore. Of course, he and Mike Tomlin, number 1 and 2, respectively, in terms of tenure. They've been around for a long time. And, of course, they make up the most storied rivalry in all of sports, for my money, between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Right off the top of his press conference, Harbs addressed this news from last week.
And the Ravens organization is amazing. I was talking to actually my agent. He had said something to me. It really was just really a telling thing. He said, "You're 5 for 5 in your head coaching career." And I kind of looked at him like you guys are all looking at me right now. Yeah. He said, "You're 5 for 5." He said, "You've had the 2 best team presidents in the NFL. You've had the 2 best general managers in the NFL, and you've got the best owner in the National Football League. 5 for 5." So that's the blessing, and that's why that's why we're at where we're at right now with that. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm happy to be alive. I hope that continues for a while. People I might say to my dad, you'll say happy birthday, or you're feeling old or whatever. Right. It's like, hey, it's better than the alternative, So let's keep rolling. But really, what you think about, honestly, what you think about is how are we going to get better today? You know, how can we get better? What do we need to do? Your players, coaches,
so you
schemes.
never think about big picture of like.
Not really. I mean, everybody thinks about it, but it's not really. It's not forefront of my mind. I just hope I make it there to make a decision. You know, at some point in time. It'd be nice. I'll still be breathing.
John Harbaugh earlier this morning from Palm Beach, Florida. Again, is the annual league meeting where all coaches, staff, ownership, media converge onto, descend onto a place of the league's choosing for a different, scenery prior to the offseason or prior to the draft and prior to everything coming up, as the new league year, of course, is just a few weeks old. But it's a contract extension for John Harbaugh, and that's the big takeaway here. This is a man who has been at the helm in Baltimore for a long time, and as he put it, or as his agent put it, that 5 for 5 nugget, right? 5 for 5. General managers have included the great Ozzie Newsome and now Eric DeCosta since 2019. Team presidents have included Dick Cass and now Sashi Brown, who met with reporters on Sunday. We'll have some notes from him coming up in quick hits. And of course, Steve Bisciotti has been in Baltimore since John Harbaugh was hired in 2008. Two things can be true when it comes to Harbaugh. Has he underachieved in the postseason in recent years? He and his staff have. At times, his players have as well. The reality is his teams are always going to be in it. They're going to win more games than they lose. They're going to build teams around the rushing attack. And they're going to play bully ball. It's been a calling card of his. I think he's deserving of this extension. He's deserving of seeing this Lamar era through. Now, Lamar, I would guess, will play a lot longer than John ends up coaching, just solely based on service time, age, you name it. But to me, John is deserving of this extension. And I think those two things can be true. He can be deserving of an extension, and you can also acknowledge that he and his staff and his players have come up short in recent years, and it is in Super Bowl or bust mode, and it has been for a number of years now. And to me, that's the way that I look at this. From a continuity standpoint, stability, right? The way that it's run from the top down, you won't find a more sound organization. That's why it makes this year and this time of year in the NFL cycle so underwhelming at times, because of the way that they're built. They don't act recklessly this time of year, organizationally, spending-wise. And now more than ever, they're built to win going into the draft. They have some pieces that they obviously want to fill, no gaping holes, but they're in a good situation entering the draft, entering the latter half of free agency, and that's where you want to be. They didn't do anything sexy aside from Ronnie Stanley's extension, right? They filled their holes accordingly, and now you go into draft season just a few weeks from right now, as the calendar turns tomorrow to April, in a pretty darn good position to stick to your philosophy, which is best player available. And I expect that to be the case when they're on the clock, probably sometime after 10 o'clock on the 24th of April, selecting 27th overall. While we're on the topic of extensions, Lamar, who is absolutely under contract for the next couple of years in Baltimore, his cap number, the Ravens have to come up with an extension for him at some point, because that number, which is in the 40s for 25, jumps to over 70 in 2026. So obviously that's not an optimal situation for team building. And so, as it has been a topic throughout this offseason, it was brought back up at today's press conference. And this was the update that John gave in terms of where things stand right now internally between the organization and Lamar when it comes to a potential extension.
About that internally, I know. How far along that is or whatever, I don't know. But I definitely think it's an obvious point that you're making. That's going to continue to have to be addressed, really, with all those guys. I mean, you just got to kind of manage that dance, the salary cap dance, and Lamar is the main part of that because he's the franchise player. So that's a possibility, I think. Sooner or later, definitely is going to happen.
Is it hard to put a value in one Lamar?
Yeah, I mean the value is the top. I mean when Lamar gets paid, he's going to be the highest paid player in football. Yeah. Just like he was last time. Yeah. I think every contract he signs, probably until he decides to hang up his cleats, he's going to be that guy.
All right, so that from Harbaugh earlier today. Again, speaking to Lamar. Obviously, the obvious burger in that was the second part of it, which is that, of course, he's going to be the highest paid player. That's just kind of how this works. Lamar is, speaking of deserving, I caught some flack in the chat. I see you guys don't think that John Harbaugh is deserving of his 3-year extension, but I'm just going to have to agree. I love Evan's I'm going to have to disagree, excuse me. I think he's very deserving. I thought Evan's comment was wise here in the chat. 2 straight AFC North titles, lost his defensive coordinator, offensive line coach, lost 3 offensive line starters, and started the season 0-2 from a year ago. Probably doesn't get enough credit when it comes to cultivating not only culture, but staff. Evan mentions that, yeah, they tapped 33-year-old Zach Orr when Mike McDonald got a head coaching opportunity, but they're not in that position had they not groomed Mike, right? And brought in Mike years ago to serve as an assistant to John, then sent him off to Michigan after several years in Baltimore, and then brought him back after a lone season to take over for Wink Martindale. Harbaugh does not get enough credit locally, regionally, nationally when it comes to his hiring ability, his vision, right? The CEO type of role that he plays for this team. As far as his comments on Lamar, of course he's going to be the highest paid player. It's just a matter of when, not if. But there have been internal discussions about a new deal. Again, it's a $40+ million cap number for 2025, which is a big reason why they've been so limited, right? And cap strapped. You talk about cap strapped, I don't even know if there's a right word that exists for what they'll be in 2026 if they don't extend him, because again, it is north of $70 million. That's the way that these deals are structured, right? On the back end, they are heavy, heavy cap hits as you get year in and year out and farther down the line into these extensions. They are built for, these contracts are built for extensions at this point in the process, which is why you saw the Bills do so with Josh Allen a short while ago. What was it? A few weeks ago now at this point. So that's the latest there. Nothing crazy substantive, but those conversations are being had. And obviously, when it comes to Lamar, those conversations are unique because, as we all remember from a few years ago, he represents himself. And so they're not as straightforward, you would imagine, as they typically are when there's a representative or an agent involved. Also, to finish up the extensions portion of today's show, one little nugget, the last question that was posed to Harbaugh at the end of his press conference was about Derrick Henry. Derrick's going into the final year of a 2-year deal that they signed him to last March. And Harbaugh said that the team would like to extend Derrick, who's in the last year of his deal. Eric DeCosta's hinted at that as well. Saquon Barkley obviously got the bag from Philadelphia earlier this offseason. And I would suspect that that remains a priority. Maybe not the top priority, but a priority for Baltimore. Because when you look at Derrick on the other side of 30 at 31, I love to describe him like this. He's an ascending player. He is a unicorn. He's someone that keeps himself in A1 shape. His nutrition is second to none. His impact in Baltimore, his fit in Baltimore has been seamless. And that's got to be an area that remains a priority for the Ravens when it comes to the running back position. Speaking of the running back position, hang tight because in a few minutes from right now, John Harbaugh gave a pretty exciting update about Keaton Mitchell, of course, the former undrafted rookie that they tapped from Coastal Carolina. He is still in recovery mode a year plus later from that December 2023 ACL tear that he sustained towards the end of the season. Saw a very small sample size of him last year. But after hearing what John Harbaugh had to say, I think you got to be excited about what could be coming with the three-headed monster in the running back room. And that is, of course, King Henry, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell. What about the offensive line? That's an area that the Ravens obviously had to address this offseason because of Ronnie Stanley being a potential pending free agent. That he never hit the open market. We all know that. And now he's in Baltimore for the next several years, meaning from a bookend tackle standpoint, they are set with Roger Rosengarten on the right side on his rookie contract and Ronnie Stanley having signed an extension right prior to the new league year. Harb's talked about the big men up front.
The O-line right now today, I think, like I said, we could play with 5 starters. We have competition even there, but we can use a couple more guys too, and we'll be looking to bolster the depth, but also bolster the competition in the O-line. But bringing Ronnie back was a huge part of that. We couldn't say that if Ronnie wasn't coming back. If Ronnie had decided to go elsewhere, we would have had to have addressed that in a big way. And I expect Ronnie to even continue to ascend, not just back to where he was pre-injury, but past that now, and I just love his mindset, his maturity, his work ethic, his determination to be a legacy-type player. I think that's really what he wants to accomplish right now, and that's really important for our team.
A lot of those comments, right, were echoed by Ronnie in his first press conference following the extension, and thanks to the chat for correcting me. It was not Coastal Carolina where Keaton played his college football. It was East Carolina, so thank you for that. As far as Ronnie's concerned, it's a 3-year deal worth up to $60 million with $44 million guaranteed. That's what they extended him to, their franchise left tackle who will be getting ready for year 10 in Baltimore. It was a resurgent, healthy, and Pro Bowl caliber season in 2024 for Ronnie, and you heard it there from Harbaugh. Had he left in free agency, had he hit the open market, and had teams like New England or Kansas City or other left tackle needy teams gotten a chance to throw the bag at him, he would have absolutely earned more than what he ends up settling for in Baltimore. Now, going back to his press conference a few weeks ago, it didn't seem as if it was a settled job. This was something that was bigger than that. It was a loyalty thing. It was an unfinished business kind of thing. It was a fit, right, and culture thing. Ronnie loves Baltimore. Baltimore loves him. Couldn't say that about the fan base a couple years ago after he signed that big extension and then goes down with a catastrophic ankle injury, missed a ton of time. But here he is, built himself back up. And again, playing at a Pro Bowl caliber level. I don't care if he's not Ronnie from 2019. That was historic. That was all pro. But if he can continue to stack and sustain what he showed last year, not only in terms of durability, but the overall impact, it's incredibly important for what the Ravens are doing schematically, for what the Ravens are doing to protect their most coveted and important asset, and that is their franchise QB, Lamar Jackson. You heard Harbaugh there, though. If Ronnie decided to go elsewhere, we would have had to address that in a big way. I expect Ronnie to continue to ascend, not just back to where he was pre-injury, but past that now. So Harb's talking rather lofty about his franchise left tackle, Ronnie Stanley. What about, speaking of the offensive line, what about Ben Cleveland? I think we were all kind of shocked when that news came down that he'll be in Baltimore for at least the 2025 season, particularly after the DUI news, the DUI report came forth. John gave some context in terms of why the team decided to keep him around despite everything that's taken place. Not only the fact that he really hasn't been able to find his way into the rotation and find a starting spot, but the off-field stuff has obviously been maybe a bigger issue.
Re-signing Ben Cleveland, I think, was just a good, smart football move for us. He's done everything we've asked him to do. Like when he comes into games, he plays solid football. He's versatile. He can play both guard spots. He can play center, and you can even put him out there to tackle, and he hangs in there. Which he's not built to be a tackle, but he hangs in there. He goes in as the extra lineman sometimes at tight end and blocks. So, that's that. And he wanted to be here. He wanted to be with the Ravens. He appreciates his role. He's on field goal protection. He's probably the best field goal protection guy in the league. I mean, nobody talks about it, but he's great at that. So he's a good guy. As far as the situation he had, that's to be determined what the punishment will be for that, and he understands that. We understand that as well. But that was a good, solid football move for our team.
All right. So again, acknowledging that perhaps there could be some punishment here for Ben Cleveland because of that, again, being charged for driving under the influence. But Harbaugh noting he wanted to be here. He wanted to be with the Ravens. He appreciates his role. Yes, he's a part of the field goal kicking unit. Yes, he has been versatile. Yes, he even played some center for the Ravens, if memory serves, during the preseason last summer. And now somebody that I certainly would not have had in the Ravens' plans for 2025 is back in Baltimore. He will be a depth piece for them along the offensive line. I'm sure he'll get a chance, whether it's a legitimate chance or not, to compete at left guard with Andrew Voorhees for the starting position. But again, that might be a moot point if that punishment comes down at some point, whether that be a fine or potential an internal suspension that the Ravens levy. So to be determined there when it comes to one of the Ravens' depth options that they have at offensive line. Appreciate you guys for being with me on this last day of March. It's opening day in Baltimore. Looking forward about an hour from now, popping over to the ballpark, Oriole Park at Camden Yards for the Orioles home opener. They obviously began their season in Toronto against the Blue Jays, split that 4-game series. And now Cade Povich and the Baltimore Orioles kickstart their homestand, first homestand of the season against the Boston Red Sox. It's the 2:35 first pitch. That has been moved up due to some impending weather, which is one of the reasons, the main reason why Sarah isn't available today. She and her family are on their way back from spring break vacation down in Florida and had some cancellations, had some delays. So Sarah will be back with me tomorrow. And then Friday, Sarah and I will be together right shoulder to shoulder in Columbus. The Ellison family kind enough to host me for our inaugural Vault Summit from her place in New Albany. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity, and I'm looking forward to telling you guys right now about this episode's title sponsor. You guys know the drill. It's the official sleep mask partner of us here inside the vault, our friends at Manta Sleep. These masks give you 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. You've got C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. Zero pressure is applied to your eyelids or lashes. Advanced materials are built in with ventilation for unmatched breathability. If you feel like you need better sleep, I'm telling you, a great first step is popping on to mantasleep.com, using our discount code if you find something you like at checkout. That's VAULT10, VAULT10 for 10% off. But just start perusing through here. You've got the sleep mask sound version. So if you want like a built-in Bluetooth feature, this would be your choice. You got the Manta Sleep Mask Pro. That's what I use. The silk and the original sleep mask, great options as well. The weighted masks give you calming pressure for deep restorative sleep. You got cool therapy ones as well that soothe your eyes and sinuses. The steam mask gives you steamy heat to relax and moisturize your eyes. You even got a kids option on here as well. If you're a white noise person, got a couple different options if you toggle over here as well. They have been with us, guys, as a brand sponsor for well over a year at this point. They're with us in season. They're with us out of season, which speaks loyalty. And we just want to continue to say thank you to Manta. If you guys want to support the show, a great way to do so is supporting our brand sponsor, Manta Sleep, because when you support them, you're supporting us. We appreciate their continued support, and we appreciate all of you guys for being with us on this Monday before we kickstart April, draft season, and everything else in between. More takeaways from the press conference. John Harbaugh's press conference at the NFL Annual League meeting in Palm Beach, Florida, coming up in just a second. To Super Chats first. Sod Blitz 34 writes in and says, Harbs is probably the second best coach in the NFL. It's EDC who should be on the hot seat. 6 years in, nothing to show, and now we're leasing the future. Sod Blitz also writes, without a new contract, Lamar is $73.5 million on the cap in 2026. I believe that might actually be north of what you just mentioned as well. Point is, it's somewhere in the mid-70s, and that is a big number and a big jump from mid-40s where he's set to be in 2025. And another one from Sod Blitz 34. Ben and Andrew are both quality enough to be starters at guard. We need another McCary, not to start, but for depth, and T and G, at tackle and guard, especially with Ronnie's injury history. Appreciate you, Sod. I expect them to handle a number of those topics that you just mentioned coming up in the draft. And speaking of the draft, just a few weeks away, Sarah and I will have wall-to-wall coverage all weekend long, beginning on the night of August. April 24th. Ravens are set to select 27th overall on opening night. More press conference notes. Again, this is the NFL Annual League meeting in Palm Beach. All the AFC coaches met with media today. I believe all NFC coaches will meet with media tomorrow. And of course, we're going to get that classic photo of all 32 head coaches that is picked apart every single year. And a bunch of people have fun with that online. This show will as well. You better believe that'll be a quick hit. But as far as Mark Andrews is concerned, John Harbaugh was asked about him. Remember that $4 million bonus triggered earlier this month. So you figure to believe that he is in Baltimore's plans, but John Harbaugh was asked straight up if that's the case for 2025.
Contact, back and forth. I mean, it's not like guys want to hear from me every day, any of them. It's like, Coach, you call me again, But Mark's in a good place. He's working really hard. I do fully expect him to be playing for us next year. He's just too good a player. Obviously, with any player, there's always that. Any player. It's just coaches, players. It's the National Football League. That's part of the deal with things happening. So I never could say anybody. But Mark would be one of the few guys I would expect not to be here. So we'll see what happens, but I fully expect. My plans are that we've got Mark, we got Isaiah, we got Charlie, we got Pat Ricard, all in place, doing all those jobs.
And all those players that he just mentioned, as we have mentioned prior in recent weeks, all enter contract years, meaning after 2025, none of the tight end room the way it's currently constructed, none of the fullback room, which is just one player in Pat Ricard, one player built like two, none are in Baltimore's plans contractually after this upcoming season. But as far as the Mark Andrews discussion goes, quote, I do fully expect him to be playing for us next year. He's just too good a player. Jameson notes a couple things here. Yes, he's been involved in trade rumors. How substantive are those trade rumors? Don't know. He has a $16.9 million cap number. It ranks third on the Ravens this upcoming season. That $4 million bonus triggered earlier this month, as I mentioned. So as of right now, and according to John Harbaugh, he is squarely involved in Baltimore's plans coming up for 2025. And after that, obviously, your best guess is mine. Does this mean he's absolutely set to be in Baltimore? We all know the types of activity, the types of buzz that have taken place throughout draft weekend and years past. And so I'm not going to sit here with an unwavering confidence that 89 is definitely a part of their plans, because what if Eric DeCosta and his phone rings on opening night and he's offered something that the team can't refuse? So you don't want to rule out the possibility of it. But it sure seems to me if you're a betting man, if you're a betting woman, probably feel pretty good about Mark Andrews being in Baltimore for at least the 2025 season. And speaking of that season, let's say it were to begin today, yesterday, tomorrow. John Harbaugh likes the way that things are currently constructed.
Describe it. I love the fact that we can line up and play right now. I've heard it said before, and it's a good philosophy. We don't play any games till September. So when you have issues or holes, if you want to call it that, you do have time to get better. But we could play a game right now with our roster. We have a really good roster right now. I love our players. I love our depth even. Not that we can't get better. So what our mission right now is to try to improve, is to try to take it to the next level. And the way the roster is set up, it gives us an opportunity to really to go after the best player we can get, whatever the position might be, to improve our team and make the whole better. So I'm looking forward to the draft. We still have some options in free agency. Keep improving.
Might not be pretty right now if they rolled it out and played, lined it up and played, but I would agree. And that honestly echoes what I've been saying here over the last couple of weeks. And that is the fact that the nucleus is intact, the core is intact, and now you just fill in those smaller pieces, right? If we're looking at the puzzle, maybe it's a world map type puzzle, right? The continents, those have been full, right? They've been filled, those pieces. But maybe the countries within those continents, those can start to be kind of filled. And there's a few positions, of course, that come to mind. One was just handled recently with the signing of Cheeto Awuzie, who has some AFC North experience. He's a former Dallas Cowboy. And then he went to Cincinnati. And then he spent this past season in Tennessee, where he only played in just 8 games because of multiple injuries. But that, on paper, is the Brandon Stephens replacement, who the Ravens allowed to walk in free agency. He ends up getting a nice deal for he and his family from the New York Jets. He's going to play opposite, of course, Sauce Gardner. But now, life after Brandon Stephens could be Cheeto, could also be some players that are currently in that room, whether it be a TJ Tampa emerging in year 2, whether it be a Jalen Armour-Davis. He just got to stay healthy. I feel like that's got to be step number 1 for him. Or could it be done via the draft with a little bit of competition brought in? We'll see. But here is Harbs talking about, again, replacing Brandon Stephens at corner.
Needing a corner, but we got Cheeto, and that was a huge signing for us. So, and he's been one of the highest ranked corners when he's been healthy. So our goal is to get him back out there, get him healthy, really work with all the soft tissue stuff, and try to do the best we can to bring him back to where he at his high level of play. So he should help us. Then we got TJ Tampa in the mix. I think TJ is going to take a big step. Health is big for him too. And then Jalen Armour-Davis is another guy with the health. So Jalen's always been talented, and he's always played well when he's been out there. So those are all guys in the conversation. And then our Darius, Darius can drop down into the nickel spot. So we've gotten answers. We could definitely add a guy in the draft too. So,
all right. So again, nothing crazy about that. Our Darius Washington technically could be plucked here in the next few weeks leading up to the draft because of the way that they handled that situation with his tender. But I think they feel pretty comfortable with the business decision that they made, understanding the market, understanding our Darius's injury history, understanding our Darius's undersized stature. That doesn't mean that he won't be a very valuable piece to them in 2025. It's just a matter of, and really the reality, the harsh reality of business in the National Football League. He also mentioned that he loves the idea, as most of us do, using Marlon Humphrey inside, right? We know that as a slot corner, Marlon, you can put him up against anybody in the league. And while he can do both, play outside and inside, watching what he does in the slot, the physicality, right? The vision, the way that he sees the field, and the way that he can close on the football, and not to mention the ball skills that come with that, right? And the ability to take on bigger players. I just think it's second to none when you look around the league. Match him up with anybody. Marlon's going to respond when he's playing inside. There's no question about that. Now, speaking of responding, I'll be really curious what a third-year player like Trenton Simpson is, their former second rounder out of Clemson, how he responds to his demotion, to his benching a year ago. Now, what did that look like when they made that decision? It was a rotation. Chris Board and Malik Harrison, given what they were facing on any given play. Right? Malik was stout against the run. Chris, you wanted to use against the pass more often. But they were forced to do that, much like they were forced to use Josh Bynes earlier on in Patrick Queen's career. And again, I think if there's a comparison game to be played here, while they're different players, PQ and Trenton have certainly one thing in common. And hopefully Trenton works out similarly to the way that PQ did. And that is sort of this late blooming kind of development. Because for Trenton, year one was lost, and we know why. He was drafted to be PQ's replacement, but he had to play behind PQ, and obviously PQ's running mate is none other than Roquan Smith. Year two was supposed to be Trenton's, though, and he was given that opportunity and could not hold on to that opportunity, and that was the reality of that. So, again, year three, it's a thin inside linebacker room right now, and you can expect that the Ravens will be active either in the latter half of free agency or the draft, or both, to bring in more depth and competition perhaps for Trenton. But Trenton right now getting a vote of confidence from John Harbaugh at this point in the process.
About the linebacker position, I think we do need some guys. I mean, we lost a bunch of guys. So we've got to replace those guys. I think we've got some good young guys coming up. William Quemco, nobody knows about him, but he played 2 games last year. I'm kind of excited him as a special teams guy and developing linebacker. But Trenton Simpson, expect him to be the starting early down will. You know, we do a lot on passing downs with dime and different kind of personnel groups in the field. He can continue to grow into that, but I think he's going to take a big step this year. I remember Pat Queen took a big step his third year as well, so that would be probably our expectation. He's working hard, man. He's already in the building every single day. He's watching film on his own. He's in phenomenal shape. I'm sure he could play a game right now. So he cares, you know, and that's where it starts.
All right, so again, Harbaugh essentially sharing that you can expect Trenton Simpson to be the starting weak side linebacker on early downs this upcoming season. Quote, I think he's going to take a big step this year. I remember Pat Queen took a big step his third year as well. I think that would probably be our expectation. You don't question, by the way, the athleticism. You don't question whether or not he's in shape. You don't question whether or not he's game ready. You also don't question his sideline to sideline type of ability, right? The heart, the character, so on and so forth. But what you do have to question is some of the game within the game, right? Some of the nuance, some of the X's and O's, some of the vision, some of the anticipation. And I think that's where Roquan was put in a tough position through the first half of last year. It's also why I think we were all kind of noting through the first half of last year, dang, why is Roquan seemingly a step behind? Why does Roquan look a little bit out of shape? I think he was pulling double duty oftentimes. And Trenton did not seem ready. But the Ravens aren't ready to totally give up on this guy. But it'll be very telling based on how they handle the next couple months, how they really feel about Trenton Simpson. Because Harbaugh can get up there all he wants and sing his praises. That's what he's supposed to do as his head coach. But the way that Eric DeCosta is supposed to act, right, through team building, and I will expect him to act, will ultimately tell the story and what their true expectations are, right, for Trenton Simpson. I'm not ready to give up on him. I think on paper, the dude's got all the traits, right, all the qualities that you want in somebody that's starting opposite Roquan Smith. He just hasn't put it all together yet. You know, you think back to that regular season finale a couple of years ago, which was his first start in his first true NFL game outside of special teams that he got a chance to line it up. And granted, yeah, the Ravens had already locked up the first overall seed in the bye, and Pittsburgh wasn't rolling out all of its first stringers. But, man, one thing I'm not going to bet against is the fortitude, right? The relentlessness, the character, the heart, and the God-gifted athleticism that Trenton Simpson has been gifted. I'm not willing to bet against that. And so will he be a PQ towards the end of Patrick's time, right, in 2023 this year? I don't know about that. But if he can fortify that middle part of the defense, allow Roquan to play freely, right, and not put more homework on his plate, I like the way this is shaping up. What could be shaping up to be pretty darn epic, especially if you're Todd Monken, is having another chess piece at your disposal. And that chess piece is somebody that they took a flyer on out of East Carolina, an undrafted rookie a couple of years ago by the name of Keaton Mitchell. Now, we all remember Keaton's brutal ACL injury that he sustained. I believe it was against Jacksonville back in December of 2023. It was late in the season. He was having a heck of a season in small little samples that Todd Monken and John Harbaugh were allowing to get dialed up. And he brought an element of speed, explosiveness, and craftiness to the Ravens offense that was just plain fun to watch when you already have Lamar alongside him, right? When you already have Zay Flowers, who brings all of that and more as well at the wide receiver position, right? You already have a true, solid, impactful number two in Bateman with maybe more to come. I think what he showed us all last year was that he's not done. He's got more to show, more to prove, which was fantastic, proving a lot of us wrong along the way. But as far as Keaton Mitchell's concerned, John Harbaugh is talking awfully lofty in late March about his running back.
If he's been on schedule, he's been on track. That was a really tough injury. So the fact that he got back when he did was, to me, almost like miraculous, that he was out there playing it all. I'm almost certain, as much as you can be sure, he's going to be a whole nother level coming back in the spring and then again in the training camp, because he's going to be, a year and a half out of that deal. So this will be his second year. Most knee injuries, it's your second year. This one, I think that's especially true about.
A whole other level, huh, Coach? Quote, I'm almost certain, as much as you can be sure, he's going to be a whole other level coming back in the spring and then again in training camp. He referred to his recovery, which is ongoing, as, quote, miraculous, back from that, again, December 2023 knee injury. I'm not sitting here and trying to make you guys buy stock in the fact that Keaton's going to get a hefty sample size of reps this year. I don't think that would be very wise of me when you look at what Derrick Henry was able to sustain last year at 30 and then 31, which he turned in season. And when you look at just how valuable of a player Justice Hill has turned into from a variety of different responsibilities too, by the way. Whether that's as a traditional running back, whether that's in pass pro, saw him really develop and enhance and work on his blitz pickupping abilities. And of course, he's always been a reliable special teams player for them, and he will continue to be. So I'm not going to sit here and say, like, hey, expectations should be through the roof. But if Keaton is used in certain spots, right, and you have certain packages designed for Keaton's speed, especially on the outside, especially in the screen game, and you want to stretch the field and keep guys honest and keep them up at night because you have yet another weapon, another element of speed, explosiveness, right? The cutting ability, the lateral quickness. That to me is exciting. And if I'm Todd Monken, I'm licking my chops at the idea of not only having another player that you got to find a way in reps wise, but somebody that's going to just make you that much more dangerous, because I think we all know what this offense looks like when you got Keaton Mitchell firing on all cylinders. So exciting stuff there, and a nice update from John Harbaugh when it comes to Keaton Mitchell. As for something that's not as exciting, and definitely, though, is still ongoing, the Ravens obviously have a Justin Tucker situation. The allegations from over 10 plus, I think it's 16, massage therapists exist. That has been hanging over Justin and the organization's head for months now at this point. What's also been hanging in the balance is the results of the current investigation that is ongoing. It's being done and executed by the National Football League. The latest from Sashi Brown, who is the Ravens team president, is this. Jeff Zrebiec and other reporters on hand over the weekend in Palm Beach having a discussion with Sashi. Okay? Let me make sure I get this correct too. Okay, so Jeff noted 22 hours ago, this was on Sunday, that he got a number of questions, did Sashi Brown, on the Justin Tucker situation. He said the team is getting, quote, periodic updates from the league on its investigation, but wouldn't go further than that. He did provide this, though. The nature of these allegations we take very seriously. These investigations do take time. We want to make sure we have a great understanding, an extra understanding of the facts. He also went on to say that the team is following the league's lead, which is much like what both Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh shared earlier this month at the Combine. Or was that now in February at this point? I've been doing so much travel. Yes, it was back in February. So last month, I can say that for one more day. As for the zero tolerance policy, that obviously goes hand in hand here based on past comments. Sashi added this, quote, the notion is we have a zero tolerance policy where we're going to make decisions just merely based on allegations, or we're not going to make decisions just merely based on allegations before we have full understanding of the facts, before we allow investigations to continue. We'll never have that policy. It wouldn't be fair to our players, wouldn't be fair to any citizens, really flies in the face of the basis of any modern justice system. So John Harbaugh mentioned while in Indianapolis at the Combine that the zero tolerance policy comments from several years ago would be addressed or followed up on. That to me is English for what Sashi Brown just shared. As far as what the Ravens now have ahead of them, while this remains a very uncertain and unsettling, I'm sure, and volatile situation, well, something's going to have to be done here in terms of what's next at kicker, regardless of what takes place, because Justin has not been elite for multiple years. Justin has been descending for multiple years, and it's cost the Ravens games. Where do they go from here?
Question. I think there's a lot of good kickers in the draft, from what I'm told. Randy Brown is out there. He's been putting up the frequent flyer miles all over the country. The last Eddie texts me like it's like Santa tracking Santa, on Christmas Eve. It's tracking Randy on the evaluation of kickers right now. But he's doing a great job with that. So he'll have his list. We'll look at those guys next week when we get back, and it definitely, it's obviously there's a lot of layers to that whole conversation, but it's something we would have to do no matter what. It's at this point in time you got to look. You got to do your due diligence. So we'll be prepared to do that draft day if we feel like we need to, and if the right guy's there.
Got to do it regardless. Randy Brown, special teams assistant, you heard John Harbaugh mention there, has been traveling the country, looking closely, I'm sure, at this year's kicking class. And then you heard there from Harbaugh, quote, it's something we have to do no matter what at this point in time. You always got to do your due diligence. We'll be prepared to do that on draft day if we feel like we need to, and if the right guy's there. Regardless, this is a situation that remains an ugly one for really all parties. Obviously, most importantly, for those who have come forth and come forward with allegations. Then it goes on down to the team because of the decision that it has to make and the situation that it has to continue to deal with. And obviously, it's just a trickle-down effect from there. You think about Justin's family. You think about Justin's son. You think about just everybody involved with what's become really a saga this offseason for the Ravens. That is the way that John Harbaugh handled that. Appreciate you guys for being with me. Sarah will be back tomorrow, pending weather, I suppose. Knock on wood for her. She's had some cancellations, some delays, trying to make her way back from spring break down in Florida. I appreciate you guys for being here. Happy opening day to those of you who celebrate the Orioles and Red Sox. First pitch at 2:35 this afternoon, which is under 2 hours away. Look forward to getting over to the ballpark. Hope to see you guys over there, perhaps. Got some other notes and some takeaways from John Harbaugh's press conference earlier this morning from the annual NFL League meeting. And for the first time, he spoke about the new Ravens wide receiver who they brought in via free agency several weeks back earlier this month, and that is DeAndre Hopkins.
D-Hop, man. I was in a parking lot in Tampa getting ready to go see my daughter play a lacrosse game, and we got on the phone, and had a chance to talk to him about what his vision was for his future and what he wanted to accomplish. And amazingly enough, it aligned perfectly with the Ravens' vision. It was right in line with what we're trying to do. And he's a guy that just I've always felt like should be a Raven. That was always something I always kind of watched him play when we're playing against him. Felt the same way about Derrick Henry, and Lamar when we saw him in College State. But to see him now with us in our building, working out already with the guys, it's pretty cool.
D-Hop already working out, of course, vying to be wide receiver 3, if you will, and vying to be what they need him to be, which is really nothing more than a Nelson Aguilar type in recent years. It's a $5 million deal worth up to potential $6 million with incentives. And I, for one, think it's an upgrade over Nelly. I think, yes, he's on the other side of 30. He's going to bring a lot of wisdom to what is otherwise a young and inexperienced wide receiver room. And it's a low risk, medium to high level reward. I will continue to believe that until something steers me in a different direction come season time. Now, come post for John Harbaugh and in this Lamar era, John was asked about some of their shortcomings and how it's absolutely at the top of mind in terms of this time of year, how they're handling their business and how they're ultimately trying to get over the hump, which they have not been able to do since they won the whole damn thing back in 2012, 2013.
We've had for 17 years. Get out of our way, be on the same page. We really want to be as in sync as we possibly can in everything we do. We try to chase every detail in terms of things that are important. Winning football, we call it. The winning football intangibles, the impactfuls, the importance to winning. Those are the things you want to be great at. And you're not going to be great. You're not going to necessarily be perfect at all those things in every game, but you want to chase perfection in every area. So you get into a game and things don't go your way. You get unlucky. The ball doesn't bounce your way. You make mistakes. The calls don't go your way. Whatever it might be, you're so good in all the other areas that you're able to overcome those things and find a way to win the game, irregardless. We've been able to do that a lot because we've won a lot of games, and every one of these games is really important and impactful. In the playoffs, we haven't been able to put it together for 3 or 4 games to win the Super Bowl championship, and that's the hard thing. That's why only one team does it. So we understand that. That's the way it's set up. But we want to be that team, and we're good enough to do it. So we want to find a way to do it. So the challenge there is the not simple part of it is setting everything up in a way that makes those things that we're intentional about those things every single day. So when those moments happen, in the biggest moments, it's something that we've been doing all along, and it's normal for us. And then we have the best chance to have it go our way in those games. And that's what we're really talking about right now as a coaching staff, is the best way to intentionalize all those things so that, in those big moments that we can follow through and get to the end.
Probably one of the biggest topics this offseason for me on the road when it came to talking with insiders, talking with people around the league on my various travels. What is it about the Ravens And what is it about their biggest players or their biggest staff members that seemingly consistently come up short in the biggest moments in do or die situations? Nobody really has a concrete answer to that question. And based on that answer right there, John Harbaugh knows that this issue exists. But I'm not confident that this can absolutely there's a certain level of confidence that answer out there exists. And honestly, it might be a trial and error type of situation, right? Type of process in order to ultimately get down to the bottom of what that question and what the answer, I should say, to that question is. Let's get to some quick hits here, and I'll begin with one that broke during our live stream today. The Ravens have joined. Shout out the UK Ravens, too, because in 2023 in the fall, I had a blast out there when the Ravens played the Tennessee Titans at Tottenham. That was just an awesome experience. But the Ravens have joined the NFL's Global Markets Program. They've been granted international marketing rights to build brand awareness and fandom beyond the U.S. through fan engagement, events, commercial opportunities, and NFL flag development. And it looks like they're going to be paired up with the UK. The Ravens have been granted UK marketing rights. There is now a Twitter account at Ravens in UK. That's the official X account or Twitter account of the Baltimore Ravens in the UK. I have so many friends over there. I think about, my buddy Ben Mortimer, James Ogden, bunch of guys come to mind that I know are rabid UK Ravens people that have a podcast, that go to games, that come to Baltimore every single year. They put together trips, you name it. And I for one, hope that the Ravens are back in Europe, whether it be in the UK or really anywhere else. Selfishly, though, with all my buddies in the UK, let's hope it's there. But there is a brand new Ravens Twitter account in the UK, and it's at Ravens in UK. Should be some fun content and some good expansion to come from that as well. Some follow-up here. Matt Weiss, of course, former assistant of John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh's. He's got some issues. Prosecutors allege that he hacked accounts of over 3,000 targeted female athletes, including at least 5 from a small Division II school in California. Dan Wetzel took a look at this. The quote from somebody he spoke with: "This is the most prolific I've seen in terms of how many schools will be impacted." John Harbaugh asked about it during his press conference earlier today. Again, he most recently in Baltimore served as the running backs coach. He then went on to work with Jim at Michigan. He's been out for a couple years now. But this is just insane. John didn't say much, but he did say this, quote, "Didn't see that one coming. Found out about the same time everybody else did. Just feel really bad for the people involved that were affected by it. It's really just a disturbing situation. This is somebody who's got young kids. This is somebody who's got a wife. This is somebody who had a career. But that all feels like an afterthought at this point." I'm going to read some other notes here from the Big Ten huddle. From around 2015 until January of 23, Matt Weiss managed to get into student-athlete databases from over 100 colleges and universities. These databases were run by an outside company. Once he was in, Weiss took personal details and medical information from more than 150,000 athletes. He used this info along with stuff he found online to break into the social media, email, or cloud storage accounts of over 2,000 of those athletes. On top of that, Weiss also hacked into the social media, email, or cloud storage accounts of more than 1,300 other students or graduates from different universities around the country. Once Weiss obtained access to these accounts, he downloaded personal, intimate digital photographs and videos that were never intended to be shared beyond intimate partners. I mean, wow. That is about as vile as it gets. And this is a former Ravens assistant. This is a former Michigan assistant. This is somebody who Sarah as she's shared on the show, used to see in the hallways, used to have conversations with in the hallways at One Winning Drive in Owings Mills. What this really is, though, is despicable. And that's the latest on that in terms of quick hits. Goodness gracious. Who could have seen that coming? I don't know him personally. I've interviewed him before in a podium setting. But you certainly don't see that coming. Patrons, Jason and Blake, thank you both for believing in what we're building. Appreciate you guys for the support. This is your monthly shout out. Jason Barrett, Blake Yaspa, for all the support that you give us through Patreon. We appreciate you both. If you guys are interested in doing the same, visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast to learn more. If you'd like to become a channel member, you can do so by clicking on the link that we have included in the show notes. We've got over 70 members. It's a great way to cash in on some incentives, some perks that we have available to you. If you are part of our loyal audience, you'll also help the channel as well. There's a bunch of different reasons for how you can get involved, for why you should get involved. We appreciate you guys as always. On your way out, if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. Sarah, the hope is that she's back tomorrow. She's been dealing with some weather and travel issues, trying to make her way back from spring break down in Florida, as you guys probably have gathered throughout the last week or so. So I look forward to that, having her back. I also look forward to today. It's Orioles opening day. It's a 2:35 first pitch at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Should be a blast. Red Sox are in town. Orioles split their first series on the road in Toronto. Cade Povich will be your starter on the mound. I believe I saw the lineup earlier. Who's in the leadoff spot? I thought it was Jordan Westberg, who looks like he's back in the lineup. And I think O'Neill is in the 3 spot. All right, so Jordan Westberg, Adley Rutschman, and O'Neill, your 1 through 3 hitters. Mountcastle in the cleanup. Heston Kjerstad, so on and so forth. So look forward to that. It's such a sacred day in Baltimore, right? Like, there's nothing like opening day in this town. I'm sure a lot of people feel similarly in other markets as well. But this will be another year for me just going as a spectator, which I love. To me, there's nothing like an opening day experience. Everybody, it's tradition, right? It's tradition at its finest. So that's what's going on today. I will catch up with you guys in under 23 hours from right now here inside the vault for a Tuesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Thanks to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this episode. Thanks to all of you guys for showing up on this Monday. And we will kickstart the month of April tomorrow, which means it's draft season. Get ready, buckle up. There should be plenty to come in the weeks ahead. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off. And as always, I'll catch up with you here inside the vault. We'll talk to you on Tuesday, if not before.